Imagine standing in the midst of a battlefield, dust swirling in the air as the sun sets behind the distant hills. The ground trembles beneath your feet as thousands of soldiers, their armor glinting in the fading light, march in perfect synchronization. It's not just an army. It's a machine, an unstoppable force that has been meticulously crafted, battle-tested, and honed to perfection. Now, picture this. Over 1,000 years ago, this very army changed the world. The Roman legions were not just warriors. They were a symbol of Roman might, discipline, and innovation. What made the Roman army so powerful that it would go on to conquer most of the known world? What was the secret behind its unmatched success? Today, we're going to dive into that secret, the strategy, the structure, and the leadership that created one of the greatest military forces in history. But here's the twist. It wasn't just about weapons or sheer strength. The true power of the Roman army lay in its ability to adapt, innovate, and inspire. And that is the story of how ancient Rome built an army like no other. History has always been written by the victors, but what makes the story of Rome's army so compelling isn't just the victories. They're just a piece of a much larger puzzle. The Roman legions are a testament to human ingenuity, a story of how an empire grew from a small city-state to dominate the Mediterranean world and beyond. But how did Rome build such a formidable fighting force? And how did an empire that began with modest beginnings manage to conquer so many civilizations? In this story, we'll uncover the reasons behind the Roman army's legendary strength, from the innovations in tactics and strategy to the military reforms that would change the course of history. And through it all, we'll see why their success wasn't just about the individual soldier, but about the empire that stood behind them. The Roman army didn't just appear out of nowhere. It had humble beginnings. In the early years of Rome, before it became the superpower of the ancient world, it was a small city-state, surrounded by enemies and constantly at war. At the heart of Roman society was the legion, a military unit that was initially made up of farmers and landowners who fought in exchange for land. But as Rome expanded, so too did the need for a more professional army. The transition from the Roman Republic to the Roman Empire marked a critical turning point for the army. In the 4th century BCE, reforms were introduced that began to shift Rome's military from a citizen militia to a more permanent and professional force. The manipular system, which divided the army into smaller, flexible units, allowed the Roman legions to adapt quickly to the changing tides of warfare. The legions began to include soldiers from all walks of life, not just Roman citizens, allowing Rome to tap into the talents of its entire empire. These early reforms laid the foundation for what would become an army of unparalleled strength. But here's a question. How did a city-state surrounded by enemies manage to overcome the odds and become one of the greatest empires in history? One of the most remarkable aspects of the Roman army was its ability to adapt. Unlike other armies that relied solely on brute strength or outdated tactics, the Roman legions were built to be flexible and innovative. It's often said that the Romans were the masters of logistics, the art of moving and supplying an army. But what does that really mean? It meant that the Roman army was always prepared. From their detailed maps of enemy territories to their precise supply chains, the Romans made sure that their soldiers were always ready for battle, no matter the conditions. Whether they were marching through the deserts of Africa or the frozen wastes of Germania, the Roman army was equipped and trained to endure. But the true genius of Roman military strategy lay in the manipular formation. This innovation allowed the Roman legions to maintain flexibility on the battlefield, enabling them to adapt to changing situations. The manipulus, a smaller tactical unit within the legion, could quickly reposition, retreat, or engage, depending on the flow of battle. This allowed the Roman army to outmaneuver opponents who relied on rigid formations and slower movements. And let's not forget about the Roman testudo, the famous tortoise formation, where soldiers would interlock their shields to create a nearly impenetrable wall. This wasn't just a display of strength. It was a brilliant tactical maneuver designed to protect soldiers from projectiles while advancing toward enemy lines. It was this combination of innovation and flexibility that made the Roman legions so deadly. But how did these soldiers stay so disciplined and loyal? The backbone of the Roman army was the individual soldier. It wasn't enough to simply be strong or skilled with a sword. Roman soldiers were trained to be methodical, disciplined, and relentless. Training wasn't just about fighting. It was about building character and endurance. Roman soldiers trained for years before they ever saw battle. They were put through grueling exercises that tested their physical strength, stamina, and mental fortitude. The Roman military placed heavy emphasis on teamwork. Soldiers would practice formations, drills, and even marching in unison for hours at a time. One of the reasons the Roman army was so successful was because of its strict discipline. Soldiers were expected to obey orders without question. If they didn't, the consequences were severe, sometimes even deadly. This intense discipline, combined with their tactical genius, made the Roman legions nearly unstoppable. But beyond just physical training, the Roman soldiers' loyalty to Rome was deeply ingrained. Soldiers fought not just for pay or glory, but for their comrades, their families, and their empire. This bond of loyalty created an unbreakable spirit that was the hallmark of the Roman military. It wasn't just on the battlefield that the Romans excelled. It was in their ability to engineer tools of war. The Roman military was renowned for its siege weapons and fortifications, which were crucial to their success in warfare. One of the most famous innovations was the onager, a type of catapult used by the Roman army to hurl massive stones at enemy fortifications. These weapons allowed the Romans to besiege cities with incredible efficiency. But the Romans didn't just stop at siege engines. They also constructed forts and roads that connected the vast reaches of the empire, ensuring that their armies could move quickly and efficiently across the empire. Roman engineers built impressive fortifications and marching camps that provided shelter and protection for soldiers on long campaigns. Their ability to build fortresses in the heart of enemy territory was a testament to their ingenuity and their strategic mindset. The construction of these fortifications played a key role in securing Rome's dominance across multiple continents. But how did all these innovations come together to form an empire so vast? By the time the Roman Empire reached its height, it controlled vast stretches of land from Britain to the Middle East, from North Africa to the borders of modern-day Iraq. The Roman army had not only conquered this land, it had secured it, protecting it from threats and maintaining order. Rome's military might was not just about fighting. It was about maintaining peace, or Pax Romana. The army played a vital role in securing trade routes, protecting cities, and ensuring stability across the empire. This allowed Roman culture, laws, and infrastructure to flourish, which in turn created the foundation for the Roman Empire's long-lasting influence. And while the Roman legions eventually faded, their legacy continued to shape military tactics and strategy for centuries to come. The Roman approach to logistics, discipline, and innovation influenced armies from the medieval period to the modern age. So, what can we learn from the Roman army? It wasn't just the sheer might of their soldiers. It was their ability to adapt, innovate, and build systems that allowed them to stay ahead of their enemies. The Roman army wasn't just a force of destruction. It was a force of order, strategy, and human ingenuity. When we look at their success, it's clear. The power of the Roman army wasn't just in the weapons they wielded or the battles they fought. It was in their discipline, their innovation, and their ability to work together toward a common goal. If you found this story fascinating, don't forget to like and comment. What do you think made the Roman army so unstoppable? Was it their strategy, their training, or something else? Let's talk about it below. Make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest empires. And if you're curious to learn more about the impact of ancient civilizations, check out our Empires and Power series.